The time is 7:01 p.m. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Mayor and Town Council for Tuesday, September 10th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Susan, do we have a roll call, please?
Rico?
Here.
Counselor Gonzalez?
Here.
Counselor Mankey?
Here.
Counselor Nagel?
Here.
Counselor Page?
Here.
Support?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rada?
Here.
Counselor
Recording.
Gonzalez?
Done. Here, sorry. All right, very good. I'll move on to approval of the agenda. Any changes proposed from anybody on the agenda? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second. All right, we have a motion by Councilor Floyd, seconded by Councilor Mankey. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approve the agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimous. And we have a couple of presentations here for us tonight. Joining us first, as you know, we've been doing monthly, we've been doing an update from a town department. And this month we are fortunate enough to be joined by Joe Salomon from our facilities department. If you'd like to come on up, Joe, and hear what you got to say.
Mayor Trister, I'd like to compliment you and Matt on your matching outfits.
You guys didn't get it with
Those are by.
That's funny.
Oh, exactly. We're patriotic.
Yeah, shop you.
Eating at the coffee.
They should. I know.
Well, thank you for having me this evening. Glad to be here. You mentioned Joe Salomon, Director of Facilities. I'm going to give you an overview of the Facilities Department, some of the items we're currently working on, and what we're looking at in the future. It's not moving on me for me, but. No, the presentation.
God's running overtime today. Working hard.
You need my help, Scott?
I'm gonna X out of that or leave it alone.
You can minimize it if you want. That'll give you your full screen.
Thanks, Sam. Sorry about that.
Worries.
So facility department is made up of 6 key members, including myself, a licensed electrician, HVAC tech, carpenter, and a custodian. And our operations manager and project manager, John Kabachki. Like a lot of departments in this town, we focus on our teamwork, our communication, accountability, and honesty. Those are some of our principles. We have a very forward-facing customer service approach to what we do. A lot of what we do and what we preach to the team is a customer service based offering, and I want everybody to be comfortable with us when we come into their space. Our goals are to provide a clean, safe, and compliant and efficient operating building for the public, employees, and the visitors that utilize our facilities. Some of the responsibilities and services that we offer or that we provide, obviously 24-hour coverage for approximately 300 square feet of 300,000 square feet of building, of facilities. There's approximately 260 employees that work for the town of Newington, and that number is rough because it fluctuates a lot and we weren't comfortable pinpointing it exactly today. But there are 100 volunteers, if you guys know, volunteers that work with us here in town, and a number of visitors that utilize our facilities. So our services, wide range of services, and support and collaboration with a lot of different departments and stakeholders throughout the town. We pride ourselves on those attributes that we bring to the table. This slide may look a little familiar to some of you. On the left was 4 of the top recommendations from the Owens report. I showed this slide previously, but on the right, there were goals that we were trying to achieve. I'm glad to say that we worked very hard and diligent to achieve those goals. So one of the main priorities from the Owens report was capital project planning. So we accomplished this by reworking the long-range planning created by my predecessor to include items that the Owens report identified. We looked at the building occupants' needs. We also looked at it from a facility staff, and that's a program that's going to continue to evolve as some of our requirements or some of our initiatives change throughout town. But we did a good job reworking that to this point. The asset and facility management planning, we've accomplished this. The department was sized accordingly. When I got here, we did not have a operations or project manager. We did not have a carpenter. So we reworked some of those areas to size it correctly. We also added the asset management software. It's called Akita Box. We purchased this and implemented it, and this is also a ongoing process, and I'm going to speak more to that in the next few slides. The preventative maintenance plan. With the implementation of Akita Box, we were able to track service requests, work orders, our PM schedules, and it also gives us a life cycle modeling and for capital replacement planning. It's a really intuitive software that's been invaluable to us. And 4th was the historical buildings. As a lot of you know, we've been putting in a fair amount of work at the historical buildings. We identified needs for both historical properties, Calagetti and Kelsey House. We've created a relationship with the Historical Society. Jim Late and I talk very frequently. He's the president of the Historical Society, trying to keep their needs in mind while still accomplishing our goals. We did the roof at the Calagetti House. We've did a lead paint abatement and paint at the Kelsey House. So we're always looking to improve their situations there while staying within budget. And I think we've accomplished that. So I wanted to talk about Akita Box a little bit because it's really a keystone of our department right now. Akita Box works as it identifies assets we use a QR code. Every appliance or building component has an asset tag, and if it doesn't, we're still building those out. There's currently about 1,400 assets that have been identified, and we continue to add to that number. It allows us to track that piece of equipment. Anytime an employee works on a piece of equipment, it tracks it. It tells us what we did, what we didn't do. If someone put a work order because something was broken a week ago and it happened again, we have that information and that data now. So it's really important to us. So total work orders completed. We started in fiscal year 23. So there was about 8 months, and you can see the numbers there, 668. We had a full year in 2024 and accomplished over 1,200 work orders. And in 25 so far, and just these past 2 months, we're at 295. Something that was lacking here in the facilities department was the preventative maintenance schedules and plans. So we worked really hard to develop those plans and incorporate them into our daily operations. Currently, there's 135 maintenance schedules. Those reoccur either monthly or annually, depending on what the function is, and it equates to about 368 tasks that we accomplish. Last part of Akita Box that's real important is the life cycle modeling. Most of the assets and the building components, what the software does, it attaches a replacement cost and a replacement timeframe and value to the appliance. They use a national database software. Some of it's a little skewed and doesn't work right for us, and some of it does. But that's our responsibility, is to go through, identify what is accurate and what needs to be tweaked. For example, they count for the concrete slab in your floor and how much that costs and when you should replace it. And it's a very narrowed window, which is a little unrealistic. So the numbers, reflect that, and that's what we work on to build it out to make it more accurate for our situations. So I'm going to show you a couple of slides that we look at on a daily basis. This is the first floor layout, floor plan of the town hall. So all the colored dots are assets, whether it's a fire extinguisher, a sprinkler, a door closure, we track, we know where they are. So when one of the staff members does something or does a repair or does a preventative maintenance on that asset, it's identified, it's tracked, and then we have that data that helps us move forward for the future. So this is just an example of a map or a floor plan. Every town building that we have a Kita box in has this same type of setup. We continue to add assets. When they first came out to set us up with the software, there were certain things that they were required to do per contract and certain things that we would do in a later date. A lot of our shut-off valves are being added. Access panels, so it's constantly evolving for the betterment of the facilities department. Some of the data and analytics that we look at, and there's layers and layers. I just wanted to give you a small sample size of what we look at. We track our work orders, reactive work orders versus preventative maintenance work orders. I can narrow this down many layers. This slide breaks it down per trade, so we can see if we're having a failure at one area more so than another. And again, this can happen at any location that we're using a Kita box in. The life cycle modeling data that we're collecting. So on the left, you'll see the column for backlog or deferred at $3.5 million. When we implemented the software, that was over $10 million. So that's something that John and I and the staff, we work on. Like I said, we evaluate what they have in there from the national averages, and if it applies to us or if it doesn't, and then we tweak it accordingly. Some of the data input at the time was based on the building's year that it was built, because they didn't have an actual year for a piece of equipment. So it's skewed. So we're working to get that down. But this information, it also tags it with the severity, the condition that it's in, gives it a risk assessment, and it obviously gives it a projected cost of replacement. This information is going to be imperative, or is going to be paramount for us moving forward when we're looking at our capital plan and trying to forecast for the future with things, when things are going to break and when they're not going to break. So it's more data than we've ever had. Some is good. Some we're still working through, but I'm really happy with it in the way it's performing so far. This is just a sample of some of the completed project that we've done in 2024. I just wanted to kind of give you a snapshot of what we do. It's really all over the place, from larger projects like the Kellogg Eddy House roof, to smaller projects at the highway garage or the grounds garage with repairs or some minor upgrades. We really work hard to identify where we have some shortfalls. We recently just installed 2 emergency generator hookups at both historical houses. So in the event they do lose power, we can bring a portable generator, have a quick connect and get them up and running. Don't have to worry about pipes freezing again like you've had in the past. So we take a very realistic approach on what's needed rather than what's wanted, and try to achieve those accordingly. Some of our short-term and long-term goals. We will be embarking on the police department HVAC and roof replacement project. That project was CIP'd for a couple of years now. We've been putting money away. It has evolved quite a bit to incorporate a little larger scope. We didn't want to do the HVAC replacement prior to the roof replacement. So it's going to be one larger project moving forward with our control systems, which are antiquated there. As well as some electrical upgrades that were needed for the 3rd floor storage area. So we've been working very hard with JCJ Architects on that project, and we're very close to finalizing our construction documents and our front-end documents to go out to bid. So I'm excited about that. We're closing out, we've already closed out, but we're going to be working on opening another grant for the Kellogg Eddy House probably after the 1st of the year for some exterior siding replacements and painting. Some of that siding at Calagetti is in need of some care and some replacement. So we're aware of that and working with the Historical Society as well. Senior and Disabled Center is getting a new generator. It was a very long lead time, as you can imagine. We're looking at the end of October. They've already installed the transfer switch. The generator is next. Like I said, we have an anticipated delivery date end of October. I won't go through them all. I'm going to talk more about the feasibility studies later on in the presentation. Working with Jonathan and Lauren, our Director of Administrative Services, on evaluating all of our leases and our relationships with the individuals that work out of our buildings for the betterment of the town. Administrative wise, the EOC planning and that project will be starting very, very soon, and there'll be a lot of work ahead of us for that. And then we're also working with Carol and the Human Service Department on our ADA self-evaluations. We're going building to building, literally walking every inch of the building, doing the self-eval forms that the ADA and the state provides. And then we work with Carol to work on a plan of action for corrective measures. So that's underway as well. The feasibility studies I wanted to speak to tonight as well. So the intent of these studies is to evaluate the practicality, capabilities, and potential to expand our existing infrastructure, both financially and physically. We're performing the feasibility study at the highway garage and as well as grounds maintenance garage. I believe most of you, if not all of you, were on that tour and had an opportunity to see both of those locations. So this is the existing highway garage currently as it sits. The architects that were hired to do the feasibility study is TLB Architects. One of the main intentions at this location was to delineate the public works functions from the public safety areas. We took into account all of the existing functions from the users. And after several iterations, the next slide will show you what our latest version is and where we are and what we're going to be doing next. The land or the plot at Milk Lane is very busy. There's a lot of things going on out there. So it was imperative for the highway department and the fleet maintenance department to kind of have some separation from everywhere else to keep them safe, keep their workflow productive. So what we came up with to this point, again, these are just renderings and still in a working phase, but you'll see that we added a second entrance, or we split the entrance on Milk Lane, adding this route here, which provides us and provides the safety, the public safety component of the land, its own area for parking and for entering. So this building here, for those that don't remember, is the police, one of the police training facilities. The shooting range is here. The burn tower training facility for the fire department. They have a shed here. And then there's also the police training classroom building here. The fire department, which you're going to learn more about tonight, is looking to enhance their area by putting a new training prop in. So I worked with them to try to find a location that's going to work for them as well as work for us in the future in this location. We added a second means of egress to the property. So currently there's only one way in and one way out. So it was important in the event of an emergency or some other kind of failure, we weren't stuck in or out. So we added this to the cul-de-sac on Holly Road or Street. The yellow is what's fairly new. We used a combination of renovation and new construction here at this location. The wash bay that you see will handle large vehicles, cleaning the undercarriage of the vehicles, keeping the salt off them, trying to extend the longevity of their life. That is within the footprint of the existing garage, so that's a renovated space. There's an additional garage here, and then offices and a new garage as well. Reworked their dry storage area. So in the existing garage, the renovations consist of kind of moving the mechanics bays around a little bit. We're going to add a larger bay with height and a drive-through area. This should accommodate the ladder truck so they can lift it and work on it inside and not outside. They're gonna rework some of the areas that they are currently using, relocating the police build-out main garages to this area, which is currently the offices. And it's gonna give them 2 bays to do that, opposed to the one they had before. Small break room and bathroom facilities for the staff. The new buildings consist of full offices. Oops, sorry about that. Consist of new offices that are modern and up to date and fit the needs of the department. Conference room, suitable break room and locker room facilities, which they need desperately. The larger garage is a one-way in, one-way out type of garage. We do have a third door in the event of a failure on one of the other doors, but it'll allow them to store more of their equipment inside. Again, helping to extend the life of the equipment. We're gonna move on to the grounds garage. This is the existing conditions currently. At this location, we are using we again are using a combination of renovation, new construction, and this land or this project consists of some demolition as well. In every scenario, so let me go to the next slide here, sorry. So like I said, this location is going to use a combination of renovation and new construction, but it also includes some demo. In every scenario we looked at, the demo was kind of evident that we needed to remove some of the antiquated buildings and structures that were on the property. There's 2 silos that are currently on property that are abandoned and have no purpose. And there's also a dry storage that this is attached to that is minimal storage for the department currently, and it is just not very is unable to be utilized the way it should be. So the new plan is to, in addition to the existing garage, knock down the demos, the silos, knock down the existing dry storage garage, and incorporate new structures. On this location, we incorporated a second fuel island. The town currently only has one way to fuel those vehicles. And again, looking for some redundancy, we wanted to have a second fueling station. It'll be smaller, one-sided, not our primary, but for backup. Working with the grounds department to find their best needs or to satisfy their needs for their storage is what we've accomplished here. I'll go into the plan a little bit more. So the renovation included break room, conference area, offices, appropriate offices, again, additional locker room space. They don't have to keep their stuff out in the garage anymore. They'll have adequate storage for their equipment and their personal belongings. We're incorporating an equipment lift for them to do their work on in the existing structure. The new building is also going to have a smaller wash bay for more moderate sized equipment that they utilize there. And then give them ample space in the new garage to keep the plows inside and some other grounds maintenance equipment stored inside. So we don't have to deal with the elements. I'll just go back to, I just wanted to talk about the demo a little bit more. I've spoken to the Historic Society and brought them up to speed on the plan of this location, made sure there was no historical value to the silos or the building. We also spoke to SHPO, had a meeting with SHPO, as well as the town clerk, to make sure that we were following proper protocol and going through all the right channels before we do any type of work, any type of demolition work. So we've satisfied those requirements. and looking to accomplish at least the silo demos sooner than later, as it's kind of a low hanging fruit for us and something that we can knock off the list earlier than later. So that is my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Get what I do.
Yeah.
Get there in time.
Can you maybe clarify for council, when you say imminent about the demolishing the silos, what, a more specific timeline, what you were thinking?
Sure. So we solicited 3 quotes from the state contract bid list for demolition of the silos. We had an environmental study done on the silos. So I have the 3 quotes. We had the money because we CIP'd for these projects ahead of time. So they're really not doing or serving any purpose at this point. So I want to get them out of the way. I think Janet wants me to spend some of that money sooner than later. So we're ready to release a contractor once we've satisfied everybody's questions and concerns, if they had any about that process. The dry storage building won't be demoed until we're much further down in the process, because the grounds department currently does use the space to store a piece of equipment, and I don't want to remove that from their operation. So I'll do the best to answer any questions that you have now, and if I can, I'll happy to get back to you.
Councilor Page. Thanks, Mayor. Well, as Councilor Mankey always says, we get up every day and we go through our business, we go to work, we come home, we hang out in our town, and everything just gets done. And you and your staff and all the other folks in town do that work that I know I sometimes just take for granted. It just happens magically, right? And you're doing all this work. So thank you very much for that. I just had 2 questions. One is, if you can, and this is kind of a vague question, and so just in a paragraph or less, how are we doing with our ADA compliance in general? Is that moving in the right direction? And then the second is the fueling station. Is that a gas fueling station?
It'll be
Where you're
gas.
adding a second.
It'll be gas and diesel.
And is that digging a new tank?
No,
or is
it's
that
it's
just
an
connecting a second line?
It's an above ground storage tank,
Oh, okay.
similar to the highway garage. When you drive in, they have the 2 convolts there. So
Okay.
it's an above ground storage tank. It'll have the size hasn't been identified yet, but it'll have a small area for diesel fuel and a small area for gasoline.
Thank you.
And as far as the ADA compliance goes, we literally just started last month. So the senior center was done. We've identified a couple small things that aren't in compliant that have easy fixes. We write that up and then submit it to Carol. She speaks to the state, and we work through our plan of correction. We've started the second study is at the library, but there's multiple sections that we have to go through for interior bathrooms, offices. It goes throughout the building. So we're not tackling it. We just don't have the time to tackle it all one, so we do them in pieces.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Of course.
Councilor Jacob.
Yeah, John, I have just 2 questions. This Akita box data, is it continually updated by the vendor so that the numbers and costs and whatever are current each day when you go into it?
So we're in a multi-year agreement contract with the Kita box. Yes. So if there's data that's being provided by national source, it does get updated. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so you don't have to go in and,
I don't.
and then secondly, if you can just explain a little, I mean, I'm always confused about the responsibilities of the town versus what we have in terms of the town versus our historical properties, and as well as the Deming Young Farm. I mean, frankly, I think in the past, it's prior to you, they've kind of fallen into disrepair. And is it because, who advocates for them? Who on town staff advocates for them? Is it because they haven't had an advocate? And what is the responsibility of the Historical Society versus the town? I'm just confused. about
So
that.
it's a learning process for me as well. I think that every one of those facilities that you mentioned need to be looked at individually, have to sit down. I mean, there's some language in expired leases that we're working under that was from sometimes 40 years ago. I've had the conversation with our new town manager, and it's a goal that we want to accomplish. I try to do, when asked, as much as I can without really, jeopardizing our budget and others. I hate saying no, but sometimes I have to. So there's some language that's defined by charter or that we have already, and some that it's gray. And I would love to have more clarity. I think we'll get there. It's just those conversations have to begin, have to start, and I think we're gonna be able to do that.
So like who then speaks for the historical?
So,
properties?
so for me, I speak to Jim Lee, the president of the Historic Society. That's my point of contact. So there's a caretaker at each location other than Deming Young. There's a caretaker at Kelsey House and there's a caretaker at Kellogg Eddy House. Those relationships are different as well. One lease for the caretaker falls under the Historic Society. One is more of a work arrangement contract with the town. So I don't know why they're different. I'm inheriting them. I have most of the information and not all the information now, I think, and I've read through it. I have a good understanding. And I don't have really a preference one way or the other, but like you, I just want to know so we can take care of them appropriately.
And then should the Deming Young Farm
So-
ever have needs? I mean, I know they have a trust.
The
or
barn
foundation, so-
falls under us,
Okay.
and Park and Rec in their commission, and I'm fairly certain, if I misspeak, I apologize, but there's a lot of information between charter, Parks Commission language. So that Deming Young, like that open space, they run the gardens there, they kind of take care of the barn, which isn't on a registry, but it's historic in nature. But the house is in a trust. So I do communicate with Mr. Goodell. We try to help him out when we can. We turn the water on and off for him. I don't know if it's our responsibility or not, but we're happy to do it. I know in the past, I think the town did some ADA compliance there with bathroom work years ago and a ramp. We walked the property last year, and it needs some work and some TLC to make it more suitable so people can enjoy it more. And I think they're working on that in terms of in via of a grant. I don't know where they are in that process. I believe the town will have some input when the time comes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Mackey.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Again, it's one of these things that's we don't talk about. It's not.
And I don't like talking about it either, to be honest with you. Stay behind the scenes.
It's not one of the forefront of our departments.
Understood.
No offense to
No,
you.
none taken.
Can you just give an update on the awnings over the human services?
Sure, yep. Actually, we had a meeting today. We were waiting for the steel to be galvanized. That's been completed. We have a remobilization date of the 23rd. We're gonna start on the gym canopy on the week of the 23rd on Monday. They have 4 days there, and then on Friday would be the human service canopy. So we'll hang the steel. From there, there's obviously still some more work to do, but you'll see the structure
Good.
take shape.
And just give us an update. I think the solar project's done now.
Correct.
To everybody's satisfaction.
They are.
There are no more roofs to be solarized.
All the solar projects are done, closeout documents provided. The school has theirs, we have ours. We're generating solar power. We get statements. We have some online software that we can look at and track. In some locations, I think it's still a little too early to kind of start measuring how we're doing.
Right.
So we have a full cycle, a full year ahead of us under our belt.
I think just at some point, it'd be nice if you could come back, you don't need to come back in, but come back and you should tell us, so over a year's period, this is what we've saved by going to that project. I think it was a worthwhile project to reduce our electric costs, especially in this day and age when electric
Sure.
costs have gone.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think
through the roof.
their PPA agreements were pretty accurate. There were some changes and iterations in the PPA agreements as the projects proceeded for one reason or another. But I think they're pretty close, and I'd be happy to come back and give you that information.
Thanks.
Councilor Nagel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for what you've done in the software, Archita Box, is that?
Akita Box. Yep.
That you selected it, while it's a lot to take in, especially for those in the public and even for me right here, it's looking at it, it's a process that's very clear that if one wants to investigate it as the citizen, whatever, it's understandable. And it also points out on a continuing basis of what needs to be done for facilities to keep on track. So I compliment you on that. I'm glad to see that it's working out as well as it is. Could you clarify is in terms of the feasibility plans and things are not done, is there funding or is this all, if the funding comes, we will do these things that you've mapped out?
So you approved $500,000 through CIP
Mhm.
last year, the year before, for these, both of these locations combined, for upgrades. There are upgrades that we are doing and have done because we needed to do them immediately, sooner than later. But the feasibility study is going to give us an overarching perspective of what's really needed out there. So the next phase of the feasibility study is the MEP and structural analysis, and then they'll do a civil analysis. Once that's completed, we will have a rough order of magnitude cost estimate. So I'll be able to come back to you saying, if this plan is what is gonna work best for the town, as a rough order of magnitude, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars. I don't know what that is at this point, and I would be remiss to try to guess at it.
I knew about what we had funded as a council, but just wanted to know if that was more than what your plans are, and also where these monies eventually going to come, if it is more, and you've kind of said, you've kind of
definitely-
answered that.
There's not a doubt in my mind that there'll be more than $500,000.
Yeah. I would think so.
I think we can continue to CIP funding accordingly. I think that would be beneficial for the town. And then once we're at that point where we have a better understanding, whether it be through bonding referendum or continual CIP efforts, we'll at least know where we need to be or close to it anyways.
Do you have a criteria in terms of what is more needed than another, at least in terms of what you'd see at the moment?
So I worked closely with the staff, the highway department, department, and as well as the grounds department. They know what they need better than I do in those buildings. Obviously, we look at some of the basics, the life safeties, the age of the equipment, the mechanicals, those are the easy things for me. But functionality, really, I relied on them to kind of dictate. So, I mean, it's kind of still a work in progress, but for what you've seen tonight, those came from multiple meetings and conversations with the departments that work in those areas.
Okay, in terms of historical things, which you've previously talked about, I was happy to see that you consulted the different parties that might be involved in it, including the historical society in town, as to whether those silos had any historical significance. I know that that's been looked into, and I appreciate that. And also, having been on the historical society in one capacity or the other for the last 20 some odd years, the relationship between the historical society, parks and rec, facilities, the different locations, the different houses isn't a simple thing. So I appreciate the navigating that has to be done without going into the nitty gritty of those different things. In terms of the Deming Farm, something that wasn't mentioned, what about the barn that is on that location? That seems to be a question. It was going to clear up, not where funds come in to fix it. Is it historical? Is it not? Is it part of Deming Young Foundation? Is it not? And how does that play into what you're doing?
From my understanding, it's separate from the trust. And it's not on any registry, state or federal registry. I think there's a historic barn list somewhere that it may qualify for, but I don't have that in terms of state or federal component. The grounds department handles the area around the barn. I think they clear cut the brush and the overgrowth under previous administration direction. I know they had some issues with vandals at one point, so I mean, it's locked up, I think, to the best of its ability at this point. So I don't have a ton of involvement with it other than support.
So at the moment, you're not doing anything in connection with it because
I'm not.
it's just there in its present condition, and
Correct.
it may be the wrong word to use, but boarded up so no one can get in.
Yeah, correct.
And it was my understanding that it is separate from the Deming Young Farm.
Mine as well.
Yeah, so that makes that very clear. Also appreciate the senior center, the process in terms of finally getting those windows in and that process and what you're doing there. And happy to see that you're now looking at the present facility for the library in terms of what exists there now in terms of the whole plans. And you plan on doing this for every building, the maps that we saw? Or
They're
has that
through a
been
Akita box,
completed?
they're done.
They're done.
We utilize a Akita box in all of our town buildings. Chief Traumer and I have had conversations about him implementing it in the firehouses as well. When we onboarded the Akita box, we added the firehouses, so they have those floor plans, and they'll have the beginning assets tagged already, and then they can build out like we did here.
Does that include the schools?
No, does not include the schools, just
Okay.
town buildings.
Okay, all right,
Anything can be grown, but at a cost.
okay.
I think they use a different type of softwares in the schools for their building
Mhm.
management application.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Deputy Mayor Rada.
Hey, Joe, thanks so much. I don't think many of us understand the scope and the breadth of what the department that you and the other folks work in do in town, and what all the responsibilities are. Having a key to box sounds like this is going to be a game changer or something that's going to really help facilitate tracking over time. Can you just give me an example or two of how it's been critical and used most recently and what you're looking forward to in the future? A couple of maybe projects where
mean,
this would really be key.
It's really a great tool for us because it does so many things. There wasn't a preventative maintenance plan here. So just by us implementing like our life safety components, we're staying in compliance with all the fire code. The guys know when they open their computers in the morning that they have a work order to complete. It gives it a time frame. It really helps us with our workflow for the day. When John's setting up tasks for a week or 2 week look ahead, we're utilizing it to see what's coming due, what reactive work orders or service requests have come in. He takes a service request, triages it, and turns it into a work order and assigns it accordingly. Whether it's urgent and needs to be done right away, or if we can finish this task first and then go to the next one. We had a problem, to give you an example, with a rooftop unit, and we had a reoccurring problem with the same rooftop unit. And we were able to pinpoint kind of why and what was happening there. Because we had that data, we weren't relying on somebody's memory from a year ago. Hey, I think I did this on this one a year ago, so it formalizes. The guys go in, they track their work, it automatically goes to where it needs, to the database, and we have it. So for me, the preventative maintenance aspect was huge because I'm a big preventative maintenance guy. We don't know what's going to break, but as long as we're doing our due diligence to try to prevent those failures, I feel like we're doing the right thing. So that's really important to me.
I think you pretty much answered what just occurred to me as a follow-up question was, prior to this, how was anything being tracked?
So prior to my arrival, I'm not certain. But when I did get here, we did kind of a down and dirty longhand Excel spreadsheets that I had used in other communities and adapted it to here.
Yeah.
But right away, it was obvious that this is what was needed, and it was an initiative from the council at the time for me to get this accomplished. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Council Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Joe, for all that you do and for this great presentation. This has been really great. I also have a couple questions about Akita Box, kind of following up to Deputy Mayor Rada's question. Could you get us, unless you have them, I'd be very impressed if you do, but just the numbers of total work orders per fiscal year prior to the use of this system? Is that something that you could get?
It's probably something I can get. It was the facilities department coupled with the IT software, so to speak. So it was just a ticketing system.
Okay.
I probably can get, I look at Scott, but I'm pretty sure they keep they have those numbers there as well.
Okay.
To try to see how many work orders came in, but I don't know if that's going to give us a true understanding, because if the facilities department wasn't actually putting in work orders of the work they were doing into the system, then we won't have it. We'd only have reactive work orders
Sure, it'll
from,
be incomplete.
from staff or failures.
Okay.
I mean, I could get to the number, but I don't know if it's gonna give you what I think you want.
No, that's all right. I think anything that you have, I think would be helpful. The other two questions I had were just about your preventative maintenance schedules. So, I mean, obviously you have limited staff, you have a million things that you've got to do day to day, like all of our departments do. And those reactive work orders are going to come up and something may be urgent and you may need to divert staff over there. So just could you talk a little bit about what the implementation's like been like for the preventative maintenance schedule? Are all of those 368 tasks getting done consistently, or are you finding that you're constantly having to kind of defer?
No, they're
resources?
absolutely getting done. So depending on the occurrence, like I said, some things are monthly, quarterly, annually or semi-annually. At worst case scenario, depending on vacation schedules or other workload, we may push something a few days. I mean, we literally go and open and close every door and check the closures as part of our preventative maintenance. So if we have something else going on, I have no problem pushing that for a week or two. And then we get to it when we finish the project that we're working on. We also do heat scans on all of our electrical panels. We have a tool and a device that shows any hot spots. So we frequently, I think that's quarterly, we go through to all of our electrical panels, make sure there's no hot spots or potential issues within the electrical system. Those are things that we wouldn't push off because that's a little bit more important.
Okay, great. That's great. Thank you. And then the last question I had was just about adding those assets into those floor plans. Do you have an anticipated timeline for finishing adding all of those assets? I'm sure it's a constant kind of.
It is constant. So we kind of have been taking one building at a time and doing what we can to add those. Like I said, we did a lot here in this building with shut-off valves because the building was new to us, so it helped us understand the building as well, get everybody more familiar with it. So we'll move on to other buildings and then look at the same items and functions that we did here and apply them. If it applies, we'll ask to tag that as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
And I don't have a time frame. It's a work in progress. You know, something sparks a thought and then we'll do it right then. And then we plan for other.
Okay. Great. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Counselor Tiniakis.
Hey there. Thank you for the presentation. So the plan that you have mapped out here with the architect firm, how old is this?
This is from last week.
Well, it's like brand new. That's cool. And then what's the process for like selecting the firm that you work with when you do
The process for what? I'm
for
sorry.
like selecting the firm?
So
that firm?
we did an RFP about a year ago for on-call architectural services. We interviewed 11 architects. We narrowed it down to 3 architects based on the criteria from the RFP. We essentially hired a large architectural firm, a medium, and a smaller firm. So every department can utilize them accordingly, depending on their project. So that's how I asked for quotes from those architects that were on our list and selected TLB from that, from their proposal. They provided samples and examples of feasibility studies that they have done at previous locations, or all the bidding architects did. And we looked at that, reviewed that information, and see who was the best fit for this project for us.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. And then last question here, you had mentioned that you had spoke to the stakeholders involved with the silos in the demolition. You said that you met all the requirements to have like the approval to demo them. Can you expand on like what those requirements were?
Well, there's state demolition requirements, obviously, which the contractor, and environmental requirements that we underwent with TRC Environmental. Spoke to Bill DeMayo, the superintendent of grounds. Spoke to Jim Late, like I said, the president of the Historical Society. Had a meeting with SHPO and as well as James and with the town manager.
And they're just like they just exist. They're just there. There's no like connection to
There's
anything.
literally no use for them at all. They're not being used for anything. They're in one silo. They had a boiler that heated the building or some part of the building at one point. It was abandoned and left there. So that has to be abated before we can remove that as well.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Counselor Boyd.
Thank you. I should have asked a follow-up, which is how many buildings do we currently have by your best estimation, the asset tagging completely done on those floor plans?
Well, completely done is.
It's ever
is a-
shifting,
is a-
but
Is a
generally.
tough one. Yeah, so we don't have, all the buildings at the highway campus, number wise, I think it's, I can probably tell you, I think it's 27. We don't have, I don't have a key to box in some of the sheds in the outbuildings.
Sure.
We did some buildings that we don't have jurisdiction under or over at this point. So like the Indian Hill Country Club was done, but they're responsible for their own maintenance. But in the event that we ever were going to assume some of those responsibilities, I wanted it in our portfolio. Same thing with some of the concession stands. Doesn't fall under us to maintain, but it's an asset nevertheless of the towns that we own. So I thought it was important to have it on there. I can get you the exact number if
That would be great.
you like.
Thank you.
Just one last question. I don't expect any report tonight on this, but maybe just at another time off, outside of a council meeting. You mentioned the Owens report as a guidepost. At some point, can we just get an update on the progress that's being made towards checking those boxes off the Owens report in terms of recommended priorities?
Sure.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Any other questions for Joe? Joe, thank you so much for staying with us and presenting tonight. We really appreciate it. And thank you for all that you do for the community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation on the Anna Reynolds School Project Building Committee, an update on that. Steve Woods is here for that. Come on up, Mr. Woods. Excited to hear about this. Thanks, Joe.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here tonight. We're actually in the bottom of the ninth inning at Anna Reynolds, and there will be no overtime.
That's the good thing.
There is no overtime.
No, we up at bat though.
That's definitely not gonna happen. Now, the project overall has been an excellent project. Although it has had its issues, as all buildings do, especially when you renovate as new and renovate as new while being occupied. And also with ceilings in the most part of the school classroom wings that are 10 feet high. So it did present its challenges. The building was built in the late 50s, mid to late 50s, opened up in the late 50s. Radiant floor heating. One of the wings, B wing, I think that was last time I was here in front of you, when we gutted that wing out, the floor, that piping was not laid properly and it had come to the surface. We were looking at a very large number to rip out the slab, put in a new slab. And I will give Newfield credit. They went to their contractors, their subcontractors, and did some investigation and found a product called Shonox. I'm repeating myself a little bit, but it's been a long time since I've been here. So, but Shonox was down at about 3/4 of an inch thick, and it actually floats on top of the existing concrete floor. And it has 7,500 pounds strength. So it's an amazing project. It did cost a little bit of money. We had budgeted $220,000 for that. And I believe we only spent around 185, 190, just to put it into perspective. If we had to take out the slab, you're probably talking all cost in over $1 million. So it would have wiped out the project. We would have been, way underwater. And we didn't. Again, we've had some issues. But first of all, I want to thank this council, past councils, for staffing the building committee. I've served on a lot of building committees, and I've had a lot of building committees not come up with a quorum. We've never not had a quorum, and we've been meeting for 4 years. So that's amazing. And I'll also credit Zoom. It is much easier to attend a meeting via Zoom than get down here or get to wherever you got to be in a car. So it's one of the better things. And James, the town clerk, kind of initiated that, and I fought it at first because I like to see people and talk, and I got to admit it's the way to go. So the construction is basically done. if you don't know, we did have an issue very late this summer, about 2 weeks before, 2.5 weeks before school is gonna open. We call it Wing C, which is right behind the administrative offices. It was actually the two of the first rooms that were done and completed a year and a half ago. There appears now, come to find out, there was a small leak in a roof, actually, I think 2 leaks in a roof. And we have some decorative panels which weren't sealed properly, allowed water to get in, mold to get in. And we use Connecticut Service Group as our owner's project manager. And Eileen Eagle has been fantastic. She noticed that the windowsills were not sticking down properly. And she kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And I know what happened. They wanted to make her go away. So they said, you know what? It's probably just the wrong adhesive. Let's go pop one up right now, test the adhesive, see that it's wrong, and we'll glue it back down with the right adhesive. They popped the windowsill, there was mold. So again, thank goodness for Eileen's persistent on this. We stopped it in its tracks. We only had to take apart half of one room and very little of another. So they're tallying up the cost. The costs are not ours. The costs will be pushed back to the contractors who made an error. You know, it's unfortunate, but this is what happens. And it's not a lot of money, but I'm sure the contractors think it's probably a lot of money. But in the scheme of things, you know, on a $31 million construction project, $35 million project overall, this is maybe $50,000, $60,000, if that high. I also want to thank Lauren Rhymes. Lauren came in really late in the project and hit the ground running. Her and Eileen just work perfect together. She has done a fantastic job of expediting all of our pay reps, our pay requests. She's been fantastic to work with. She's available to me all the time. And it's almost a full-time job. If I showed you my phone between Lauren's emails and Eileen Eagle's emails, there's a lot. And most of it's nothing real important, but it goes on. And we can usually put the fires out immediately. Newfield, who is our construction manager, I think again did an excellent job for us. With this mold problem, they were right on top of it. It was 6-7 days a week. They stopped it in its tracks. They knew how important it was. And I believe you all know there's an open house there tomorrow night. We wanted to make sure that those rooms were done, and they are done, and they will be set up for tomorrow night. So you'll be able to walk through the entire building. All these projects, they're fun when they're over, a little aggravating as you're living them. But I mean, it's good for the town. I love it when you see the kids' faces come back into the new spaces. You know, it's just, that's what it's all about. And we were able to do, I think, a pretty good job. We are still under budget, so there'll be some money returned to the town. We were able, because we did well enough through the project, we value engineered the front canopy out. We are able to put that back in. It is a smaller version of what was there, but it's very functional, and I think it's great. And we were also able to add a small pre-K playscape in the interior courtyard for the preschool. So, you know, there's still some stuff going on. All the major site work is done. All the construction inside the building is definitely done. They're just waiting for ideal weather for seating and that sort of thing will all happen. But again, I think you'll be impressed when you get to tour the building again. It came out really, really good. And I will, you know, I served on on the Board of Education for 16 years. They do an amazing job maintaining their buildings. They actually do. You walk into any one of our buildings, whether it's this one now basically brand new, or the high school, which is pushing on 52, 53 years. You know, they're clean. Actually, they're not clean, they're immaculate. My hat is off to them. And with that, if there's any questions, I know you have a long night. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions that you have.
Counselor Maggie.
I just want to thank you for your leadership. I think it's great to have a great committee and a great group of people working. It takes a great leader to make it all happen. And someone who answer those phone calls and all those emails from Warren and from other people, and keep everybody on the same focus. It's great to have a great team of horses, but when someone's pulling them in the right direction, it doesn't happen. So,
Well, you know, they allow me to do it and I enjoy doing it. I do it for a living. I can't stop.
well, you've done a good job and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
what
And
you've done.
I
Yeah.
appreciate very much your compliment.
Counselor Draco.
Yes, I'm anxious to visit tomorrow, get the tour, see the final product. But again, as Councilor Menke said, thank you for taking this on. Like you said, you've been on a lot of building committees and you have that institutional knowledge, which is so important, so key, as well as just the cultural knowledge of who we are as a community, what's going to fly, what's not going to fly. And that's what, we'd like to maintain and keep on building committees such as this. So thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Counselor Page.
Thanks, Mayor. You give so much to our town, Steve. Thank you very much. You and all of you've done for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You know, the town has done a lot for me and my family. So this is just a way of giving back.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Rada.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for the presentation. I came on as one of the council liaisons a few years ago. Project had already started. I have no background in construction except maybe how to drive a nail in my kitchen. But any questions that I've had or that anybody else on the team has had has always been answered quickly. I agree with you that folks that we've been working with are terrific. Now I'm looking forward to, as we move ahead into John Wallace, but it's been a team and I've appreciated it. I've learned a lot and thank you for the leadership.
Thank you.
Counselor Nagel.
I've come even later to the game, at the tail end here of the project and from what I've seen and what's been presented. It's really been a pleasure to serve with the others and to see how smoothly, as you pointed out, things have gone along with such a complicated project as this has been, and look forward to tomorrow to seeing the completion of it all. And I know we all are. And thank you for your service. And I know we've been on other building committees a long time ago. And I know I'm on another one with you, as indeed Councilor Rada is. So we're looking forward to the next stage with another building to have that process move as smoothly as this one has. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from councilors? None. Thank you so much for being here, Steve, and thank you for all you've done with the project. Can't wait to see it tomorrow and looking
We're
forward.
gonna have perfect weather.
It's
Couldn't be-
good.
couldn't be any-
Yeah, right.
Thank you so
And
much.
remember, it's not, it's done, but it's not 100%. We're tweaking.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. No.
but you should know it.
Thank you.
We did as good of a job of it.
Very good, very good. Thank you, man. All right, moving along in the agenda. Next is public participation in general. If you are in the room and like to speak in public participation, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. If you are on Zoom, use the raise hand function.
Good evening, Dave Horrigan, 30 Candlewick Drive. I'm going to start by reading an email that I obtained from the town manager via Freedom of Information. The council has already seen this, but the general public has not. This email is from Andrew Brecker, and it's to basically the entire library board. This is quoting the email. I received a pointedly direct message last evening. It was received by everybody on August 27th at 8:30 in the morning. Last evening that I should use my position on the library board to stop my fellow board members from speaking in any way at this evening's public hearing that'll make it harder for the town council to move forward with the pools project referendum. I explained I've tried before, I'm still quoting, and failed to get that message across to several members. So I was told, don't know by who, to pass this message along. If the library board wants its project to ever get to referendum, it needs to stop undermining the Parks and Rec project. In fact, library board members should come to the public hearing and support the pool project referendum. If not, it'll be a long time before a library project referendum is endorsed by this council. Now, some of you may think this is harsh, but accept it or not, when you want $50 million in public funds, you can't avoid playing hardball politics. Holy cow. Email I just read intimidating library board members to put up or shut up gives us some insight as to how unfair the pool's public hearing was. How many other members of other boards received a similar threat? Since the email to the library board members was received by this council before the August 27th, 6 p.m. public hearing, the hearing should have been postponed pending an investigation into the matter. We've heard a great deal about transparency being paramount to this majority. If that's true, then you have no choice but to reverse your decision to move the bonding proposal to referendum. The council needs to schedule another public hearing and send a clear message to all Newington residents, regardless of your position on our board. Encourage all voices to be heard without being feared for adverse consequences. I also feel strongly that Andy Brecker should tender his immediate resignation from all town boards. I also feel the council should demand to know who asked Andy to intimidate the library board. I also have a question for Town Manager Jonathan. Why did you feel the need necessary, or yourself or your department, to request permission from Mayor Trester to grant my request for freedom of information? To this entire body, have you begun a complete investigation into Mr. Brecker's actions? To Lisa Matson and Karen Brenner, as town employees, you were threatened by a board member. Did you report it to the town manager? Will you be filing an ethics complaint? I thought we lived in a community where all could freely express their views without fear or worry that the very act of offering a dissenting view would invite retribution. I thought we lived in a community that valued freedom of speech and the right to articulate opinions and ideas without interference, retaliation, or threats from elected officials or town staff. I guess I was wrong. Up till now, I have brushed off the concerns of others regarding the way the pool committee was hastily formed, not giving the minority time to select members, because I actually liked the way it was getting done. But now I'm very concerned about that. And the fact that the architect for the pool design was handpicked by the Parks and Rec director. Was an RFP, we never saw one. I can no longer be silent on these matters. I don't think you can either. In summary, you ran a sham public hearing to discuss a sloppily put together bonding proposal based on an almost illegal building committee that never vetted alternate proposals. What say you?
Do have one on Zoom. We'll go to that one first and we'll come back to the room. Mr. Wayne, go right ahead.
Yes, hi, this is Beth Del Buno, 327 Walsh Avenue. First, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Woods for his work on the Anna Reynolds Building Committee. I know how hard he worked for the last few years to get that project done, and I'm thrilled to hear that it is coming to completion and all has gone well with it. The real reason I'm here this evening is to address the comments that Mr. Horgan just made, actually regarding the email sent by Mr. Brecker to the library board. Mr. Horgan summarized very well the original email from Mr. Brecker and is absolutely correct in saying that these are threats that cannot be tolerated. But I would like to share with you my concerns that are in addition to what you just heard. First of all, I would like to commend the library board members who did respond to the original email and called out the use of those threats. After receiving the email from Mr. Brecker, several of the members responded and stated that they felt threatened and that they wanted Mr. Brecker to state who had contacted him and who had threatened the board and their proposed renovation project. Mr. Brecker's replies to those board members, in my opinion, are even more egregious than his original email. In his replies, he makes the following statements, and I quote, "You are right to interpret this as a threat. I did, and there is no reason to like political," and I'm not going to use the expletive, BS, but that is reality. He later in the email chain states, and I quote, "Consider this a heads up instead of a threat, and it's not quite so objectionable. To put it another way, we don't want to bite the hand that feeds us, or they will decide not to feed us." The they in that sentence is all of you. He's referring to you as a council. This is tremendously concerning. He later states, quote, "The person that called me wanted to call you and a few others directly. I told them not to do it because you cannot be trusted to keep anything confidential, which is why they don't want to be identified. I acknowledge that you consider that coercive, unprofessional, and you don't like it. I agree, but that's politics." These statements admit that he knows and understands that what he is saying in these emails is threatening and political in nature and is wrong, but yet he defends his statements and continues to threaten the board anyway. In my opinion, this entire council should be absolutely appalled at the implication that he is making that you, someone there on this board, on this council, is somehow threatening to withhold future monies or projects or holding something against the board if they don't support the Parks and Rec project. You all should have already demanded a full investigation into this matter, and maybe you haven't, I don't know that, to find out who Mr. Brecker is referring to and where the threats originated from. Interference in a public hearing is a serious issue. Interference in any aspect of moving a project forward, of spending tax dollars, of any process in this town cannot be tolerated. I would ask, have you begun an investigation, perhaps even involving the police department? A quick Google search on my part brought up when I typed in, is coercion a criminal offense? Connecticut General Statute section 53A-192 popped right up, and it says coercion, a class A misdemeanor or class D felony. And it states a person is guilty of coercion when he compels or induces another person to engage in conduct which such other person has a legal right to abstain from engaging in, or to abstain from engaging in conduct in which that person has a legal right to engage in by means of instilling in such other persons a fear that if the demand is not complied with, the actor or another will, and there are 4 options to choose from, and the 4th one states, take or withhold as an official or cause an official to take or withhold action. In my opinion, those emails are coercive, and I would urge this council and you, Mayor Trister, to take this extremely seriously and move forward with a full investigation in whatever way you deem necessary, whether it be through the police department, through the ethics board, or through your own means. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Wow. All right. Dana Havens, 113 Stoddard Avenue. I know that you're all aware, due to the group email that I was a part of, that I FOI'd some emails between the Park and Rec supervisor, the architect, and the past chairman of the Mill Pond Pool Committee, and that I finally received them. Among the things I discovered in the more than 1,100 pages was that the chair of the previous pool committee, you just recently disbanded, never received the information requested by him and the previous town council from the Park and Rec director. The Park and Rec director did receive that information from the architect in April of 2023. And it was regarding the building of the pool in the current location. Also of note in those emails is that the main concern of the architect for keeping the pool in the same location was it wouldn't fit into the grand master plan for the park, which I added grand, but which, if the current chair of the pools committee is to be believed, is now a dead issue. Another was piping for the splash pad. I've been told by several sources that the area has already been plumbed in anticipation of building a splash pad many years ago when other MDC work had to take place in that area. Oh, and the one that made me laugh, one of his exceptions was parking. He said there's not enough parking in that area. Come on. The parking situation for the Garfield plan creates a staggering lack of convenient and safe parking. To be fair, again, he was basing that concern against the master plan and total makeover of the park. But again, if what Eileen said is true, it is no longer a concern because the plan is now dead. Mitch, in our discussion after the meeting last week, you said, or 2 weeks ago, you said you told people when running for office, you'd get this poll done. I am sure that the vast majority of those who voted for you did not expect you to go forward with blinders on and not to consider all options. Well, except maybe the Park and Recs Board and members of the swim club. I'd like to remind you, all of you, that you were hired to represent all of us, not just those who voted for you, and I lost my place, sorry. You also had said that the reason this council started the new committee was to be sure all things were considered when planning for replacement of both poles. Not only did the new committee not do that, but they purposely ignored Churchill for reasons I stated before. And they never looked in discussing the alternate locations for Mill Pond in their public meetings. When a committee rushes in and appears to blindly follow the desires of another, that's a huge problem and a sign of something wrong. When a bonding resolution is worded so vaguely that leads people to believe 2 pools are being built for the figure and leaving so much more up to interpretation as for the other items, then there's something very, very wrong. And I'm adding, when a member of the library building committee is directed to warn the other members of the committee against speaking publicly, well, that is so very, very wrong. I went through all the stages of grief there, shock, horror, wanting to cry. This is just ridiculous. I urge the council to make a motion to rescind this decision to bring the bonding resolution to the ballot this November. So the pools committee can actually do the work they were charged with, and that you as a council can ensure the most thoroughly vetted plan is brought forward to us in clear and concise verbiage and renderings. And I also believe some of you need to reflect on the actions you're either taking, turning a blind eye to, or allowing to happen, just to keep your promise to advance certain projects. You're here to serve us all. Oh, I fit that in somewhere else. Here's a quickie and one you'll like. One of those emails was actually an email from Bill to the architect complaining about me. and what I sent him. But the funny thing is, when you look at the rendering for the pool in place, which was what my email was about, the architect drew up what I had said. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. Believe it or not, I was coming here tonight just to listen to a couple of presentations and really had nothing much to say. I want to get home and watch the debate. To Mr. Horrigan, thank you for your FOI request. Am I shocked? No. I'm surprised that it has come to this point. I had hoped for a change, but I don't see any change. I just see more of the same. And it's sad. It's very sad. I will leave the fight to the pool for the others. I went round 1 and saved Mill Pond Park, and I'm not going round 2, not up to it. However, the presentation by the facilities director, I found it interesting and yet bothersome as well. I have gone through 5 town managers, 2 interim town managers, and 3 facilities directors in my watching of these meetings. I've been to many committee meetings, many CIP meetings, and I believe the Kellogg-Getty House roof started with Bob Korpak, got handed down to Dave Langdon, and now is finally being taken care of by Mr. Salomon. One of the biggest problems I saw in watching these meetings was it seems that there's no clear direction as to who is responsible for the facilities as to maintenance. And I'm not picking on the American Legion, but it's one thing that has stuck in my head. Some things we do there, some things we don't do there. One time they were going to do a roof there and I asked, why are they doing the roof? And the answer by the town manager was, oh, we really shouldn't be, but because the previous facilities director did some other work, we're going to do this. I have heard many times over that we need to know what these leases look like, what the town's responsible for, what the people that are leasing them are responsible for. Near and dear to my heart is the Deming Young Farm. The two people that are working day and night to try and keep that going are a little bit younger than me, but still they can't keep doing it. And yet I never see anything, any money is going there. I saw a grant that was given to the Deming Young Foundation, but then I found out that it really was for the barn. I'm so confused as to who gets what. It's just alarming to me. And I think it's all a matter of records aren't handed down. There's no way to track anything. And I think that Mr. Solomon said it, you know, he inherited this. Well, I heard that from Mr. Langdon. I inherited this. And it's not just that department, it's other departments as well. As for the historic homes as well, there's been a lot of chatter about the Waples house. We can't even maintain what we've got right now. So you buy it for $250,000. And then what happens? Then you've got to remodel it or demolish, or do demo. And then you find hazmat problems, whatever the case may be. Let's maintain what we have here. We have so many beautiful areas in this town, and yet it doesn't seem there's a master plan that goes on for 20 years. And by the time you get to number one, it's so bad that you have to replace it. Something has to be done to prioritize getting our records in order. Never mind with this computer stuff. All you have to do is walk around and you can see it yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Mhm.
Good evening, Edward Noivelle, Surrey Drive. I happen to be on the board of directors for my condominium association. We had a meeting yesterday to discuss issues about our condo complex. One of the problems that we have is nothing new to the town, nothing new to Newington or any other town, is the rodent issue. One thing we observed was there's a chicken place that opened up where it used to be Dunkin' Donuts across from the Newington Junction station. And they have, they're disposing of food and items into their dumpster. They're also like, not everything goes in the dumpster. And sometimes the dumpster's doors are left open. People have seen rats from that building come over to our complex. But I was wondering, is there any rules and regulations as far as how businesses such as restaurants have to maintain their dumpsters and what they have to do? As far as, is anyone overseeing if they're letting garbage overflow the dumpsters? That could be a problem, encouraging rodents to come. But I know that Charlie Brown talked about the issue of us a couple months ago. I know some people here are concerned about it too. But I wonder really, what are we doing as far as encouraging the businesses to take care of the refuge properly so this doesn't happen? I know that one of the other issues, according to the MDC, is because they're working on the pipes and everything else, and also different construction within the town, disturbs mice and rodents, et cetera. They have to go somewhere. But I just want to know, what can the town do to help enforce businesses to take care of their refuge properly so this doesn't happen?
Just to jump in there, that's the Chester County, the
sorry?
Central Connecticut Health District. That's Charlie Brown. So send me an email tomorrow and we'll get it, run it up the chain of command, and we'll have the CCHD inspectors come out and handle that business. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Anybody else in the room or over Zoom that would like to speak in public participation? All right, seeing none, we will move on. Oh, was there any email correspondence? I didn't see any.
I didn't see none. I said, didn't see none. I didn't see any.
So no email correspondence. All right, we will move on to remarks by counselors on public participation. I'll jump in right away. And I want to address what Mr. Horgan has said and others. We did receive an email approximately 10 minutes or so before our meeting last week. So we didn't really have time to digest it until after the meeting. I was incredibly appalled at what I read in there. And immediately we addressed it with the town manager and advised him to investigate into it. We're still waiting to see the results of those investigations. From what I understand, Mr. Brecker is currently out of the country. So it's been harder to track down, I guess, but I don't I'm in contact with him, so I don't know. But we are looking to resolve that because we take threats like that incredibly seriously, and that is not how this council operates. I know we all feel that way. That's not us. So we are doing everything we can to investigate it. With that, we'll move on to Councilor Pacheco.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the same thing, maybe a little more passionate. When I came back from vacation, actually, that was the first email chain I saw between Mr. Brucker and members of the library board. And using intimidation as a means to silence critics of the pool project is deplorable. Public meetings, people take their turn at the mic to exercise their rights, and anyone who threatens or intimidates someone from speaking is violating those rights. And I don't know if the individual who made the threat through Mr. Brecker was a staff member or an elected official. But in reality, it really doesn't matter, except in terms of how they're disciplined. And someone's got to be disciplined on this. Because clearly someone who has perceived power with the council is misusing their position and their power to intimidate and stifle opinion. And I'm just gonna, again, this is just so appalling. I just want to, this is not hearsay, whatever. This is a written document from somebody who serves on a commission who said that they received this information from somebody in a high position of power. They warned the library board not to speak at the public hearing, or it will be a long time before a library project referendum is endorsed by the town council. But clearly the initiator of this threat knew it was wrong, as confirmed by subsequent emails by Mr. Brecker to the members of the library board who wanted the name of this mystery person. I quote Mr. Brecker, "You can't be trusted to keep anything confidential," which is why they don't want to be identified. Now, this mystery person could have communicated with the library board in a legitimate way. They could have called the members, discussed the merits of the pool project, asked for the concerns of the library board, and came to an understanding through persuasion, perhaps. But instead, they chose to bully. They used backdoor methods to force behavior through threats. What I also find just as disturbing is that the messenger condoned this behavior instead of trying to stop it. To quote Mr. Brecker in a subsequent email to the board member, "Consider this a heads up instead of a threat. And it's not quite so objectionable. Well, a rose is a rose is a rose. I don't care what you call it. This is a threat and intimidation." And misuse of power or authority to influence an individual not to exercise their right to complain, to raise concerns, or to be against a certain project is not what this town is about. And it cannot be shrugged off as, boys will be boys. That's only politics. Or as Mr. Brecker stated in a subsequent email, "I've tried to do my best to caution you. If it all blows up in your face, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. Accept it or not, when you want $50 million in public funds, you can't avoid hardball politics." Well, I don't accept it. If this body doesn't make a statement and take action, then we as a governing body are condoning the tactics and, quite frankly, are complicit in condoning this type of behavior. And I'm not content to let this pass. I'm sorry. So I did ask, along with others, I guess with the mayor, the town manager, to continue to investigate, and as needed, discipline those involved, and not just a slap on the hand, wink, wink. Don't do it again. That's really not good. We need, as a body, in my opinion, to make a statement that this is not the way Newington will conduct business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tiniakis?
But, like the mayor and Councilor Bedrejko, I also agree with all of that. I had responded back to the email thread condoning it. I have no idea who Andy Brecker is. I haven't never met him before. But I don't think that this person has any business being involved in anything that goes on in our community off of this. And subsequently, whoever had told him to relay that message, I don't think they deserve to be involved with anything that has to do with Newington. So yeah, I fully support making a statement, fully support some sort of investigation. I was kind of thrown back by his second response in the email thread with him just flat out saying this is a threat. I thought that was a very bold statement for a random person to me to say. I don't really appreciate someone trying to take away someone's First Amendment right to speak. And most certainly to insinuate that they're speaking on behalf of me or anyone else at this table. So yeah, I'm pretty upset. If I ever see him, I'm gonna have some choice words for him, but I really do think that we should get to the bottom of this. So that way we can nip in the butt and then move forward.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gonzalez?
As far as the email, I agree with everything that people in the council have said so far. It's unacceptable. It's not okay. And I also have spoken to Jonathan and asked him to look into it. And I think we wait and see what comes out of that and go from there. As far as the rat issue, I was gonna tell you that absolutely the businesses, if you see something like that, if anybody sees something like that, Charlie Brown said to absolutely call it into the town manager, call it into him. That's not okay. Like, that's absolutely not okay. And I also reached out to our town manager about the issue, and I'm not a rat expert. I have no clue about them, but it's a problem. It's disgusting. And I don't think that one or two households working on it is going to make any kind of a difference. I think it's something that the whole town, needs to work on in some way, shape, or form. I'm not particularly sure what exactly that is. I've been trying to educate myself a little bit more about what a rat does and is and all of that. But I do think that if you see something that doesn't look right, you need to call and let somebody know, because it's not going to just go away on its own. We need to work together as a community. So hopefully we will have some more information to put out that we can do together to try to combat this situation.
Thank you, Councilor. I just wanted to add one more thing, in response to some of what was said, and I wanted to acknowledge that, and acknowledge appreciation for Diane Stam and Leah Mankey, who came out at the public hearing 2 weeks ago and still spoke anyway, despite what was in front of them and not knowing. So I really, really appreciate them for being here and showing that kind of spirit and support. So appreciate that, and just wanted to get that on there. All right, moving along to old business. Next on the agenda is it's our early voting plan. We had talked about our wonderful registrar stayed late with us 2 weeks ago and presented their plan for early voting. Councilor Page, would you please read the resolution?
Sure, Mayor, thanks. Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby approves the registrar voters plan for implementing early voting as required under Public Act 23-5. A copy of the plan shall be attached to this resolution.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Page, seconded by Deputy Mayor Arata. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. And that concludes everything in old business. Good. Next, we have no resignation appointments, tax refunds. Deputy Mayor Arata, would you please read that resolution?
We'll do that in just a moment, as soon as I find it. Here we go. Resolved that property tax refunds in the amount of $9,607.68 are hereby approved in the individual amounts and for those named on the requests for refund of an overpayment of taxes certified by the revenue collector, a list of which is attached to this resolution.
Second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Arata, second by Councilor Tiniakis. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Next is approval of minutes. Are there any changes that anyone saw in any of the minutes, or everything was all good? Okay, very good.
We need to approve.
We need to vote to approve them.
I think we need to.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 25th, July 9th, July 23rd, July 30th, special, August 13th, public hearing, and August 13th, regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Counselor Menke, second by Counselor Floyd. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right, and we will move along to new business. We have a couple of items here related to John Wallace. Lauren, you want to give us an update on that, if you don't mind, if you have a minute?
The next 4 items are all on the John Wallace project. And if you're okay with it, I just like to talk about them kind of holistically all at once, just make it easier. The next item is to allocate funding. So the funding has already been approved at referendum. It's $10 million plus. What we're asking for you to do tonight is to actually allocate that amount that was approved by the voters into separate line items so that we can pay for the services that are next on the agenda. We are asking you to waive your rules this evening so that you can vote to approve the funding now, because one of the items that is coming up next is to approve architectural and engineering services, and we are also asking you to waive the rules on that item. We need to appoint an architect to do the design for the Wallace wing, the 3 wing upgrades sooner rather than later, so that they can get the design plan done by November 15th and get it into the state in order to comply with the state grant funding that's already been awarded. So if you're okay with it this evening, we're asking you to waive the rules to allocate the funding. We're asking you to waive the rules to take the recommendation from the building committee to appoint the architect and engineering services. And then we're also asking you to consider the recommendation from the building committee to appoint an owner's project manager and a construction manager. And I did also give you draft resolutions to waive the rules on those other 2 items. They're not necessary in the way that the architectural services are, but if you're going to waive the rules and appoint the architect, it would help us if you just did everything all at once and let us move forward with the contracts for all 3 of the services, and then also the allocation of funding.
Seems pretty straightforward. Do you have any questions or concerns? Deputy Mayor Rada.
Yeah, being part of the committee, I just wondered if, Lauren, you could just give a little bit brief, semi-detailed understanding of why, in terms of our time frame, why this is important for us to be moving forward with this, and where we are at this point in time in the committee.
Sure. So the committee has done the 3 RFP, RFQ processes for these 3 bid awards. And the impetus to get everything done sooner rather than later, like I said, is because the design does have to be to the state for November 15th, so that the state can approve the design plans by the end of this calendar year. They intend on approving them during the month of December. We need to get the designs done so that we can start the construction in April or springtime of 2025, and we can't go out to bid for the actual work until we have the designs complete. The owner's project management is like a clerk of the works. That's Eileen Eagle right now for Anna Reynolds, just so that we have a comparison of what those services are. She basically is acting on behalf of the owner, which is the town, every single day, tracking payments, tracking work being done. I know Steve gave you a great example of the work that an owner's project manager can do when he talked about the water issue at Anna Reynolds. And for the construction management services, that is a firm that will come in and kind of do the same thing for us on the construction side. So they're going to oversee kind of GC the project and oversee the work that's being done on a day-to-day basis.
Thanks.
All right, very good. Councilor Draco?
Just, I understand the work of the owner's project management. It's like kind of like overseer or whatever, but $483,000? How long are they contracted for?
For the duration of the construction. So they'll start immediately as soon as we have a contract up and running, and they'll stay through actually post work and help us with closeout documents as well.
So how long do we think that will be?
The work itself is scheduled for 13 months between spring of 2024 and the following year. So they're going to start essentially immediately all the way through the end of construction. We're hoping to turn everything back over by the end of the school year 2026. And then they'll stay on longer than that and do closeout documents.
Is that like a set flat rate, or is it hourly or daily or monthly? I know it just seems like $500,000 for a year's work is pretty.
When all is said and done, it's probably going to be closer to 2 years worth of work. But that is their lump sum fee.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Tiniakis?
I'm just curious, what is FF&E?
Fixtures, furniture, and equipment.
Simple enough.
Any other questions or comments, Counselor? All right, seeing none, Counselor Page, would you please read the first resolution?
Sure, Mayor, thank you. Resolved that the Newington Town Council, in accordance with section 14 of the Town Council Rules of Procedure, adopted April 9, 2024, hereby moves to allow action on agenda item 11A to authorize Janet Murphy, Director of Finance, to establish separate expense lines for the John Wallace Middle School building project.
Second.
All right. A motion being by Counselor Page, seconded by Counselor Tiniakis. Because we're we're voting to waive the rules, we'll now open it up for public participation. Anyone in the room that would like to speak on the specific issue, please come up to the microphone. If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. All right. Seeing none.
I guess
Okay. Right ahead.
Quick question.
Counselor Mankey, yes.
And I stepped out of it for a minute, but we have to do this now, and we have the rules, because we can't wait till next 2 weeks from now. Why?
Because we have to get the material, the design back to the state for the grant purposes by November 15th. So that's the urgency. The other ones would be great, but the architectural design.
This is the critical.
That's the critical one, yeah.
Any other questions or concerns? A motion by Counselor Page, seconded by Counselor Tiniakis. No, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? None? All right, motion carries unanimously. Counselor Page, would you please read the second one?
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby creates the following expense lines for the John Wallace Middle School building project: title construction, amount $7,351,133. Contingency, amount $1,061,454. Miscellaneous legal/bonding expenses, $60,000. FF&E, $575,013. Architect and engineering, $1,466,335. Project management, $483,665. Now therefore be it resolved that the Newington Town Council, as fiscal authority for the town, hereby agrees to establish the above referenced expense lines under the John Wallace Middle School building project.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Page, second by Counselor Gonzalez. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Deputy Mayor Rouse, would you mind reading the next resolution?
Resolved, the Newington Town Council, in accordance with statute 14 of the Town Council Rules of Procedure, adopted April 9th, 2024, hereby moves to allow action on agenda item 11B1 to award architectural and engineering services to the John Wallace Middle School building project.
Second. Motion by Deputy Mayor Rada, seconded by Councilor Plourd. Because we're waiving the rules, we'll open it back up for public participation. Anyone in the room or in the Zoom would like to speak in public participation on this matter, please let's on a microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we had a motion by Deputy Mayor Rada, seconded by Counselor Claude. Any discussion on this? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Deputy Mayor Rada, would you please read the second resolution?
Yes. Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby names Friar Architecture, Inc. as the town's architectural and engineering design firm for the John Wallace Middle School building project, based on their proposal of August 30th, 2024, in the amount of $549,880. And be it further resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes Jonathan Altschul, Town Manager, to enter into a contract with Friar Architecture, Inc. for architectural and engineering services.
Second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Rada, seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any discussion on this? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Counselor Claude, would you please read the next set of resolutions?
Resolved, they just keep going down.
Yep.
Resolved that the Newington Town Council, in accordance with section 14 of the Town Council Rules of Procedure adopted April 9th, 2024, hereby moves to allow action on agenda item 11B2 to award the RFP for owner's project manager for the John Wallace Middle School building project.
Second.
All right, motion by Counselor Claude, seconded by Counselor Menke. Again, we are waiving the rules, so we'll open it up to public participation. Anyone in the room or over Zoom that would like to speak in public participation may do so now. Bless you. Seeing none, we had a motion by Counselor Claude, seconded by Counselor Menke. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And Counselor Claude, would you read the next part?
Sure.
Thank you.
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby names Construction Solutions Group as the town's owner's project representative for the John Wallace Middle School building project, based on their proposal of August 1st, 2024, in the amount of $483,665. And be it further resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes Jonathan Altschul, Town Manager, to enter into a contract with Construction Solutions Group for owner's project representative services.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Claude, seconded by Deputy Mayor Rada. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Counselor Gonzalez, read the last one.
Sure. Resolved, the Newington Town Council, in accordance with section 14 of the Town Council Rules and Procedures adopted April 9th, 2024, hereby moves to allow action on agenda item 11B3 to award the RFP for construction management services for the John Wallace Middle School building project.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Gonzalez, seconded by Counselor Claude. Again, we're waiving the rules. We'll open it up for public participation. If you'd like to speak in public participation. Well, when we get to, yeah. First, just open up for public participation. We got one.
Just a quick note for the public.
Very good.
Steve Woods, 94 Newington Avenue. This project is a little bit different as far as funding goes. Reimbursement typically we're 56, 57%, and it changes almost every year. This project is north of 70% funding. So again, I know you all know, but I want the town to know. So it's very unusual for us, but it's an unusual case with this particular building. And thank you. I know you don't like changing your rules to do this. And as you know, I sit on a lot of committees. We tried to start early, but the state just holds us down. There's now, in order to get a price from an architect, you have to do an RFQ. You have to then either interview them or go through their qualifications. Then you have to get an RFP, which is pricing, and then you have to make a decision. So it just is, it's difficult. We try to do the best we can. And again, from start to finish, Councilor Rodrigo, this project, as far as the construction manager goes, and the OPM, the owner's project manager, will be almost 2 years from start to finish, because they do pre-construction, construction, and then they stay through closeout. State holds 5% of our money. until the project is closed out. So it's very critical that that gets done. That's included in these projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Woods. Anyone else like to speak in public participation? Seeing none, and a motion by Counselor Gonzalez, seconded by Counselor Floyd. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor Rada?
I do. I think we have, and Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have some errors in the language. Under the first resolution, it states construction management services. I think that should be town's construction manager or owner's construction manager.
That's the name of a company, construction manager.
Right, that was the previous resolution,
Oh, okay.
because the one we will be voting on is Newfield Construction. Correct?
I think there's, I think they're slightly different. This one is Construction Solutions Group. Is that what you mean? It's very similar.
Yeah, is this, yeah, well, that's what I wanted to find out. The RFP for construction management services, that would be all right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So write the language as it is.
Okay, yeah.
Very good. Any other discussion on this? All right, again, motion by Counselor Gonzalez, seconded by Counselor Floyd. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Counselor Gonzalez, will you read the final resolution?
Wait, actually, I think, Ms. Rodham had a good point. If I look at the last, of the resolution that Mayor just asked, Councilwoman Gonzalez to read, I think it's right. It should read to enter into a contract with Newfield Construction for construction management services rather than owner project representative services.
I don't know what you guys are looking at.
So she's about to. So we're gonna-
That's
And for construction management, and it says owner's project.
Yeah, I
representative.
don't know where you got that because I'm in the packet and it's correct. So I don't know what was printed.
Lauren, can you read what you want?
Yeah, so that the town council hereby names Newfield Construction as the town's construction manager for the John Wallace Middle School building project.
It's down here, but the
Oh.
further
Oh,
results.
okay,
Yeah,
sorry, I'm like,
yeah.
where- Okay, sorry, I do have a typo.
Yeah.
And then be it further resolved, yes, Newfield Construction for construction management services.
Okay, so the second resolution.
Sorry.
Okay, so that's where we gotta make the edit.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. You got that, so when we get to discussion.
I've got it.
You
I've got it.
that. Very good. Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. If you wanna read it that way, Kathy.
Construction management services.
You see what?
Nice catch.
You see what this is? Construction.
Yeah.
Instead of owners. Say construction.
I got it, okay. Ready?
Counselor Gonzalez, please read the rest.
Sure. Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby names Newfield Construction as the town's construction manager for the John Wallace Middle School building project based on their proposal of September 3rd, 2024, in the amount of $906,035, and be it further resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes Jonathan Azul? Alshul? I'll work on that. Town manager to enter into a contract with Newfield Construction Management Services?
No, Newfield Construction for construction management services.
Newfield Construction for construction
Management.
management services.
Second.
Jeepers.
All right, motion by Counselor Gonzalez, seconded by Counselor Tiniakis. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Did you get the language on that one, Susan? Very good. Let me know if you need that.
Sure.
Good, thank you.
Susan's a pro.
All right. So we are moving on to item C, State Homeland Security Grant Program. You want to give us an update?
Yeah,
on
and
that?
then this, I believe council passed a similar resolution a year ago and a year prior, but basically CROG administers a state Homeland Security grant for the CROG municipalities. Last year, I think it was for 2.1. This year it's for $1.75 million for 10 or 11 different regional collaboration, Homeland Security issues, things like addressing emerging threats, domestic violence, extremism, protecting soft targets, crowded places, enhancing election security. I've made, the emergency services chiefs aware of this, and DJ as our EOC emergency management coordinator is responsible for sort of administering it or being our representative to CROG on this. But if the council is okay with this, this will be placed on the agenda for the next meeting to approve, and basically just a administrative, I don't want to say formality, but administrative step in order for CROG to be able to take possession of that grant.
Are there any questions from councilors?
Gail.
Councilor Draco?
Yeah, I'm assuming, because I quickly read through this, I don't remember in much details last year, but it talks about, they agreed to maybe place some regional assets in the town of Newington, and that that the town is liable for, assumes liability for some of those assets, maintaining an inventory of the assets, including a unique tagging system. And so has our legal team looked through, this is a very lengthy contract, have they reviewed it?
It's the same contract that was approved a year ago, and I believe the year before. I have not sent it to Mr. Ritter for his review, but I can certainly do that and have him provide comments prior to the next meeting.
Yeah, if you want to, because there are some things here that
Okay.
we are perhaps on the hook for.
For
And I
sure.
don't even know what a regional asset being placed in Newington is. I mean, if they can give us some examples of that.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council questions?
Seeing none. We'll move on to item D, fire department training waiver. We got some friends from the fire department here. Do you want to give us a little background on this, Sean, or do you want to have them come up?
Lauren.
Or you, Lauren, you want to do it? All right, perfect.
So as you'll see in the memo that is in the packet for this item, we are asking you to consider a bid waiver for the roof training prop for the fire department training tower. The funding for this is in CIP. They had come to you last year and asked for an allocation in the CIP plan for upgrades at the training tower facility. There's about 123,000 that's been allocated for upgrades in the CIP. This is about 80 of that. The additional money would go to other upgrades at the site. So we are asking you to consider a bid waiver because the company that is going to do the roof prop, both supply the product and the installation, is a sole source. There are no other companies that would come out and do the same thing. The location has not been decided on, and this is something that Joe touched on during his presentation, because we are currently doing the feasibility study for the entire site up on Milk Lane. We don't actually have the location of where this is going to be installed hammered out. However, when that happens, we did want to have this process ready to go so that they can call the company and get the product ordered. It will take some time for it to be manufactured and delivered to the site. So we're kind of doing this preemptively so that when the location is decided in conjunction with the feasibility plan, they can call that day or the next day and just get the product ready to be delivered to the town.
Councilor Page?
Thanks, Mayor. Just can you explain for my edification and maybe others who aren't fully clear on the technical aspects of this, what it is that we would be purchasing and how it benefits the fire department?
Sure. So it's I don't know, Chief, if you want to send somebody out to help with anything I missed. But this is essentially, it's to simulate what they would do if there was a reason why they had to evacuate off of a roof.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's what's just.
Hello. How are you guys? I'll let Chief Regina speak on this since he's our training chief.
I wish, I'll have this passed along. This is like a picture of the unit itself. What this allows us to do is to simulate different roof pitches to do our work on. What happens with this structure, it's a steel structure, we lay in wood structure, plywood, we can shingle it, we can work on it flat, start with a flat roof, and there's a hydraulic system that allows it to be angled to multiple angles based on how houses are built, buildings are built, and we can do that. We can also cut a hole in the material and use it for confined space training, so we can lower ourselves through the top of the base. The underside of the device has positioning for sheetrock, so we can lay sheetrock in, we can work from underneath this to pull ceilings, and we can go through that process that we do when we call overhaul on a building structure. It is hydraulic. It's like if you're familiar with a dump trailer, they've got a little 12-volt battery, and the battery, it's solar powered, and it allows it to lift and lower. So it's pretty self-sustained. The thing about this structure, we do have to put in a pier, or what we're hoping to do is put a slab under it, so we have a good surface to work under, and we'll be using it on a regular basis.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Menke?
Just a quick question. I assume this goes in there, when we're all done, said and done with that area, it goes next somewhere near the fire tower, currently, correct? Where it goes now, because we don't know where that where the highway building is gonna end up, the footprint's gonna end up.
It's more about the egress that Charlotte's pointing out to, the fact that we're trying to create different means of egress in and out of the facility.
Okay.
The proposed placement right now is behind the fire tower, and we just wanna make sure that where it's being proposed to be installed is not going to be impacted by any future.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Councilor Tiniakis?
Yeah, what's the lifespan on a piece of equipment like this?
The steel structure on this, 40 to 50 years.
Nice.
Based on the way it's the process, the way they treat it.
And also, the reason we went with the fire vent system, since it is a sole source, the state of Connecticut actually has the exact same prop. They have it in a mobile prop that they use at their training facilities throughout the state. So that's why we went with this particular brand also.
Questions from councilors?
All right.
Oops, go ahead, Councilor
I
Menke.
assume you said mobile prop, this won't be mobile, but other towns will be able to use our facility then like they do now. I know whether they use it in Market Hill and those other towns.
Yeah, so any town that's on with our training tower right now, which is Weathersfield, Berlin, Rocky Hill no longer is. But West Hartford also uses it now. But yes, they will be able to use this also. And actually, some of the towns have donated plywood and sheetrock already for this prop. In anticipation for it. They had funds available last year that they actually donated as part of that. We actually have it in one of our Connex boxes waiting for the prop. So.
Thanks. Thank you. Councilor Rodrigo?
Yeah, since we're kind of waiting for the feasibility study and where it's gonna be placed, whatever, is this thing mobile at all? I mean, once you install it, can it be moved?
No, once it's installed, it's permanent. It's what we call a stationary prop. We did not want a mobile one just because of everything that's happening over at the training tower. We just wanted it as a stationary product that's mounted to a pad, if you want to say.
The other problem that you have with a mobile unit, you have to have a truck that can move it, and it's collapsible. And so whatever structure you build has to be removed so you can move it, because it has to be, narrow enough to be driven to whatever location you're doing. So it's a lot of work to do.
Plus, the other thing is the size of the prop is rather large. It's 12 feet by 24 feet. So, towing that around is pretty, awkward, if you want to say.
I was just wondering, I don't know how long the feasibility study and all that is gonna take, and just if you could get it ahead of time and then just move it into place, but obviously you can't.
So we're talking with Joe. We met with Joe at the facility. Joe's looking to do the feasibility study and get this as kind of taken out of the feasibility study, if you want to say, so we can start this project without the rest of the feasibility, moving forward, if you want to say.
But we already talked to him about where we want it and the actual position and everything with it. If you notice on that print that he gave you, it's actually in there as in the design of it.
Town has some work to do behind it. They might dig back further, which would give us more properties. So it's a question of feet more than it is anything else.
Yeah, in Joe's feasibility study, he did tell us that he's looking to get as much space back as he possibly can to kind of improve the whole area. So we do appreciate that also, to give us more space.
It gives us the ability to get behind it with a truck or an engine, and besides just one-sided or two-sided.
Councilor Gonzalez?
I just had a question. I was interested. The fire stuff that you guys use to practice with is just incredible. When we went over to see the fire tower and everything, you said you were going to be able to cut holes in this. Do you
Yeah.
build, like, you said people
You literally would,
donated?
just like you were building a house, you'd put roof rafters into the structure. It's already framed up that way. And then you'd put plywood on it. We'd have to fasten it down. And then as you moved it up or down, we could cut. We can
Oh,
make our
wow.
cuts like we would do with that.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Council, any other comments from councilors or questions? It doesn't need action tonight, right? So at the next meeting? Okay, very good. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, moving on, next we have a written oral communications to the town manager or other town agencies. It's up to you.
I'll just give two very brief updates. We've got the town center study has kicked off. We had a nice walking tour with members, senior staff and council leadership today with a consultant at the Waterfall Festival in 2 weeks. The consultant will be on site doing some survey work, outreach work to people, attendees of that event. So yeah, things are proceeding really well there. In addition, we had a productive meeting, I thought, with the owner of the historic home on West Hill Road. And there is going to be some outreach, or there has been some outreach to Preservation CT to do basically a assessment of the property to see if it is in fact something that could be preserved. So hopefully some positive movement there. Long road ahead to figure out how that all will work, if indeed it is something that can be salvaged, but still a positive development.
Much. It was a nice walk today. Good day for it.
Good day for it.
Yeah, very much. Moving on now to council liaison committee reports. Any updates from councilors? Councilor Nagel.
Thank you, Mayor. Attended the Senior and Disabled Center meeting. They've not met all summer. That's my plan. So they went over, this council has discussed previously in terms of an update on the Meals on Wheels and monies provided to keep that going. Also, they got an update on monies that was granted to the senior center for COVID reasons, and they're reassessing and have plans to use the funds that were given to them. We've discussed this previously, so I won't go into detail about that. This fall, the senior center has a lot of programs that seniors can sign up for, including a walking competition, line dancing, ukulele playing, Medicare, learning about the different aspects of Medicare. I need to sign up, and also technology courses, classes. You can sign up for appointment for those seniors who need help and assistance with technology. November 7th is the Senior Expo, which was so successful last year, that was initiated. And once again, it's November 7. Building update mentioned before with facilities, the window project is finally done. Assessments are being done for security to the building. And they're also looking for some assessment help through the state to make certain that building is as safe as possible during senior activities, as well as when the building is not occupied. Also attended, as did Deputy Mayor Rada last night, the library board pre-meeting and their annual meeting. There is a concert coming up on September 27th in the library. The Lynn and Vinnie Robbie, it's a long title, but a group that has been there before. September 23rd, they're having a special facilities. I believe it's the 23rd meeting to meet with an architect. This is just the library board. There were some questions about their architect, which is doing the planning to present to us eventually for a possible expansion of the library. Also, once again, the program having to do with the virtual authors can be signed up for, whereby you can have a live program and actually talk to authors. You can sign up and be able to converse with them. There are 3 programs that are going on. You need to check with the library as to when that is. You do have to sign up for it. It is recorded so that you can see it beyond the initial live time, but of course you can't communicate with the authors at that time. October 25th, Friends of the Library is having yet another one of their book sales that one should go to and participate. It's been very successful. I believe the last one was the most successful one they've had. I'm sure Councilor Rada can add to whatever I leave out. They also had their annual meeting just following it. Do you want to
No,
comment
just
to
that
that?
the book sale goes on for 3 days, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, it's a 3-day thing, but begins on the 25th. Annual board meeting was held following this because some of the things they did was to prepare for the presentations. Very smooth running annual meeting with a lot of positive information about funding and planning for the future for the expansion. The librarian, Lisa Masson, gave yet another very clear, informative review of the past year and of hoping and knowing that people finding out that the library is not a place for books. It's becoming more and more a destination place to connect with other people in many different ways. During that meeting, they gave out awards as they give every year in recognition of volunteers and those who helped out with the K5. 5K. Thank you. I knew I was doing something there. And to accredit them for all the help they have given. I don't know if we want to go into details about who received what. Councilor Rada, if you wish to do so, you may do so.
I will pass. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that's it.
Thank you, Councilor Nagel. Councilor Badrego.
Yeah, Economic Development Commission, just a heads up for one of their first major initiatives. There's going to be a program called Explore Newington, held November 24th to December 8th. It's going to be a week-long event to bring awareness of and traffic to businesses in town. So the EDC will be contacting businesses who wish to participate. And residents and non-residents can sign up and get a passport, which will be stamped. And if you go to a certain number of, businesses or whatever, there'll be prizes and a discount and other, activities that week. And there's a lot of details to be worked out, but it sounds kind of exciting and they're really into the planning of it.
Councilor Badrego. Councilor Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things wanted to just add very briefly to what the town manager spoke to, a very productive meeting with the owner of the home on West Hill. Both myself and Councilor Badrego were glad to meet and we are in really good shape. It was a very, very positive discussion and feel very positive about the next steps there. And I think we're going to have some more discussions within the next couple of weeks regarding a larger kind of historic structures, historic site strategy, and getting a little more serious about how we think about preserving our great historic assets in town. So that'll continue to be great. And there was a meeting of and I wrote it down this time, the Permanent Municipal Building Commission Ordinance Review Subcommittee. I've called it kind of happily the nerd committee. I think we're like the nerds. They put us all there. But we had another meeting of that subcommittee. Lauren has continued to support us in that work and it continues. And I think we're doing really great work in that subcommittee and I'm sure we'll have some
We're close.
some stuff to report at some point soon. We are close, absolutely. And I just wanted to shout out too, that several of us attended Newington Schools Convocation a good week or 2 weeks ago now at this point. And wanted to shout out Jeff Helming, who was formally recognized as the Teacher of the Year, and Anna Barrows, who was formally recognized as the Paraeducator of the Year as well. So congratulations to them.
Counselor Gonzalez?
The Human Rights Commission is putting on an event Thursday, October 17th from 5 to 7:30. It is going to be a community conversations and wellness event. There will be health and wellness tables, free blood pressure checks. You're going to be able to sign up for a variety of different vaccines for in the future. Flu, COVID, meningitis, and I can't remember, there was a few others. There'll be a health and equity presentation, panel discussion, and then from 7 to 7:30, there will be 2 yoga sessions. And there'll be some food and drinks as well. The Chamber has the Waterfall Festival coming up September 28th from 10 to 3. And as of a couple days ago, there were still some tables available. And a bunch of us, I just wanted to mention, attended the grand opening of Hound and Home and Muddy Paws, right in the center of Newington. What is it right next to?
Pollo Guapo.
Is it, yeah, right there though. And it was a really great store. If you have animals, even if you don't, go check them out. It's really, really nice. They have an area that you can, I don't know, did they wash dogs or you can wash the dogs, but yeah, really nice, really nice. So congratulations to them.
Thank you, Counselor Gonzalez. Any other updates from counselors? Counselor Nagel?
I'd be remiss saying that we missed that event, Councilor Rada and Deputy Mayor Rada and myself, because we were on Zoom meetings involving Anna Reynolds and John Wallace, and I'm sure you've heard more than enough to want to what's going on there. So I won't add to it.
Thank you, Counselor Nagel.
But just to let you know that my dogs have requested that I bring them.
It's a cool store.
And buy them
dogs,
goodies.
it's dog friendly. You can bring your animals.
Very good, very good. All right, we'll move on to public participation again. If you're in the room or over Zoom and like to speak in public participation, please come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Dave Horrigan, 30 Candlewick Drive, and it is past my bedtime. I'm really not a Debbie Downer. Each time I come here, I'm saying all these negative things. A lot of positive stuff in this meeting tonight, and I appreciate all the town staff and everything you guys do. But your response to my public participation, while positive, agreeing with me, was woefully short. Where is the resolution? Where is it tonight for Mr. Brecker to be removed from all boards? Mr. Tanakis kind of alluded to it. He has committed what might be a crime, according to some people I've heard, at least temporarily have a proclamation to remove him from this town. He does not represent me or you guys. We have all this youth in this new council, and I'm excited. I'm very excited for Councilor Clord, Gonzalez, and Tanakis.
I qualify as youth? Sorry, I apologize.
And not just the youth, but the energy and the positive outlook. We heard before that we got the same old stuff. We don't have to. And the best way that you can make that clear to the entire town is to do this. Get rid of the man, get rid of the snake. Otherwise, you're one of them, and I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive, with keys in hand and water ready to go. I was walking out the door. I appreciate what Mr. Horrigan has said. As far as the person who sent the email, he's not an elected official. He's appointed to a board. I don't know that you can answer this question, but there is a process. I believe, unless the library board is a little bit different, that they could ask for his resignation. But it's sad to see this happening. However, I've had interactions with the gentleman myself. He asked me why I was such a troublemaker. And this was 10 years ago, and I said, if you could just tell the same story at all the different meetings that you go to, life would be easier for all of us. So this is not something new, in my opinion. I've seen it way too many times. And people that are on boards and commissions, I appreciate what they do, but they cross the line sometimes, and I think this has crossed the line. Thank you.
Ms. Lyons. Anybody else in the room or over Zoom that would like to speak in public participation? Seeing none, we will move on to remarks by councilors. Any remarks by councilors? Councilor Mankey.
I promised my wife I wouldn't speak about the memo. Because every time I think about it, my blood pressure goes up, and I promised I wasn't going to speak, and I wasn't going to speak until you, Mayor, thanked the two people on the library board who did speak in favor of and opposed the project. And I appreciate your comments. But here's the insidious part of this thread. Two people from the board of the library spoke in favor of the project.
No, I don't
No, they
believe
were
so.
not.
You have Mr. Ryan, Mrs. Ruck.
That's right.
On the library board, spoke in favor of the project. And as you said that, I said, now, did they speak in favor of the project because of the threat? Or because that's what they felt? And I'm hoping it's because they felt, but I'm sure that's why that both the four people spoke the way they did. But this is the insidious nature of a threat like this. A member of the who works for Parks and Rec spoke in favor of the project. Did they speak in favor of the project because they liked the project or because there was a threat out there? The insidious nature of this. The coach of the swim team, did he speak in favor of the project because he wants a better pool? I'm hoping so. Or was he told, speak in favor of the project or we're gonna cut your time, swim time? The insidious nature of this. Folks, if we can't trust one another in this process, where are we? Where are we? If we lose confidence, if the public loses confidence in this process, it's fatal. It's fatal. Because if one threat's out there, if there's one threat about how people should speak in the back, and I hadn't even thought of that until Mayor Trister said, thank the two people who spoke. I said, geez, what about those people that spoke on the other side? Did they do it because of the threat? We need to take action on this, folks. To just sit here and say, oh, it's a bad thing, and I never met the man, and I never talked to the man, I don't know who he is. The impression that the public has is somebody on this council, some elected official told him to tell them not to propose this project. That's the impression that everybody I talk to has. We got to do something. If we don't take a stand, we're going to lose confidence in how this process works. And if we lose confidence in how this process works, we lose confidence in how the whole process, the whole house of cards comes tumbling down. I promised my wife I wouldn't speak, so it may Caesar. She's probably sleeping by now, so tell her I didn't speak.
I do want to address that. I agree with you. We do need to take action on this. I think, for where our standpoint is, at least for me, this is a new thing for me, dealing with this kind of an issue, and it's a situation. And I think it's important that for where I stand is that we do follow our processes in this. This is why we instructed the town manager to investigate, and I am eager to get to the bottom of it and find out who, if anyone, Mr. Becker spoke to, so that we can address that person, and then Mr. Becker could be addressed. But I want to do it with facts, so I want to follow the process on that, and I expect that we'll there, and I think we're all on the same page on that. So I expect that we'll get to the bottom of it. Councilor Gonzalez.
Yeah, I just wanted to address your comments. it is a board that he's appointed, that he's on, and I think, I could be incorrect, but I think that is for the library to decide how they want to handle that, and I think they are working on that. As I think there is an investigation going on and looking for the facts, so it's not that, at least for myself, it's not like I'm sitting up here and not giving you information. I don't have any information to give to you. All I know is that we have instructed our town manager to look into this, and I'm assuming that he is going to follow the right process and do the right thing. And we are all not okay with what happens. None of us are. So it's not that we're not saying anything. There's nothing to say right now or do, I don't think, other than get the facts and find out what's going on and then deal with it.
You, Counselor Taniakis?
Yeah, just to echo, what's already been said, I agree with Councilor Menke that action should be taken. But I also agree with the mayor that there's a process to follow. It'd be one thing to reprimand this individual who sent the email, but then I don't want that to be the end of it, because there's also someone who had directed him to do so. So I think that person also needs to be held accountable. So we rush through this and then just pin this person as like the sole scapegoat to the scenario. Someone's going to be getting away with an unsavory act. So I think trusting in our town manager to figure out and get to the bottom of how this all started is probably the best course to do. And then once we have all the information available, then we can take action in a formal way, whether it's here at this council or whatever legal means might come of what's discovered.
Yeah, agreed. I want to just reiterate, sorry, Councilor Draco, go right ahead.
Yeah, I agree with all this, but I still think in the interim, there's an action we can take. Well, first of all, I believe the board that he's appointed to, we did not appoint Mr. Brecker to that particular board.
That's
But-
He's the business, the corporate
But I
representative.
do believe as a council, we can make a statement asking Mr. Brecker to resign or recommend or make a statement to the library board that we, as a town council, we feel that he should resign because his actions are not subject to investigation or, what are the facts or whatever. He wrote those memos. He was the messenger. He admitted it was a threat. He said, hey, that's politics, man. And you only have yourself to blame if you don't, some of the quotes were just, it's not a fact. It's not a matter of interpretation, it's a fact. So I think as a council, we could ask that he either remove himself or we recommend to the library board that they, remove him, because I think his behavior, there's no question. But I do want to find out if there was anybody behind that, because if there was anybody behind that, whether it be elected or on staff, that is incredibly serious.
I agree, Councilor Draco, and I'm fine with, agreeing that we call for him to step down. I think that's reasonable and fair, but to your point, I want to find out who it was that he spoke to, because to me, that's someone that's purporting to speak for the council, and I'm not okay with that, particularly in that kind of context, but I certainly agree that he should step down, and I'm happy to, if we want to put that in writing, we can do that. But I want to get to the bottom of who he spoke to. I don't want that to get lost. I don't want to turn this into let's make a sacrificial lamb out of this one person and put to bed. I want to find out what really happened, because that's whoever he supposedly spoke to is that's what my concern is, frankly. Not that he should be sending emails like that, but we need to get to the bottom of it for sure. Deputy Mayor Rada.
Yes. I completely agree that we follow the process, and I appreciate our town manager for stepping in immediately as soon as he was notified of this and has done that work. I think it's important that with whatever statement that comes out of this council, and I'm certainly in favor of making a very strong statement. I think Councilor Draco, you kind of echoed all of our feelings that it was horrific. It was disgusting. It was absolutely shocking when I read through. Was this an interpretation? Was this a fabrication? Was this some misrepresentation, we don't know and we won't find out, at least for the next couple of weeks. But I also think that any statement that we make will be important to include our support for the library board of trustees. He is a corporate member and I can't speak for them. Councilor Nagel and I are both liaisons to the board of trustees. But I know that you can tell by some of the responses that we saw in these emails that they were as shocked and found it as egregious as we did. And I'm sure are working, whether it's with Mr. Altschul or amongst themselves, to try to figure out the best course of action to take. Someone wants to, if we want to work together to put together a statement, I'm perfectly happy to work on that. Right, I pass to you, Jonathan, and but I do think it's important that we follow the process. There is a process in place, and we're not going to get, we may never get all of the answers that we would like, but I think we need to follow that process and that road as far as it will take us, so that we can make sure that that this does not happen again, or if it does, that we're prepared to move quickly and swiftly and take action against this kind of behavior.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Nagel?
I would concur what fellow liaison to the library, Councilor Deputy Mayor Rod has said. I've in person have been attempted to be intimidated by the individual who is mentioned in other cases. One can look at library board meetings where I've spoken against the method in which this particular Mr. Brecker is, I won't say this individual, say Mr. Brecker, call him out for how he's handled himself and how he's portrayed me, and assuming what other councilor members were going to do in meetings, not to this thing in particular. It's reprehensible, and I do think some kind of resolution could come out of this sooner rather than later. Action as opposed to words is not going to help. Not as a sacrificial lamb, but as a case where this is just intolerable, and it has no place here in the town of Newington, and hopefully it is not done through any kind of political motive or reason. I truly believe that's the case, that it isn't, and we need to at some point soon stop talking and come forth with a strong statement that this is not acceptable from anybody. No one on this council wants to be intimidated or should be intimidated by anyone, but do what is best for the town, which is why we are elected and is why I'm certain the library appointed Mr. Brecker to be a corporate member.
Thank you, Councilor Nagel. Councilor Gonzalez?
I think that you mentioned earlier that Mr. Brecker is not around. He's out of the country, I believe you said. So for people just to remember it, obviously I would think he would need to be involved somehow in finding things out. So if it might take a little while, I'm assuming. So just to remember that, that's all.
But to that point, I think it's reasonable that we can.
Well, we could make a
something for the
statement,
next
but I'm
meeting,
just
at least
saying,
to
to get
prepare that,
anything
yeah,
from
so we can
him.
show our united front, but yeah, I want to.
Absolutely. And it's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
Agreed.
And he doesn't sound like he has a great track record either, you know, when.
Very good. Deputy Mayor Rada?
Yes, I just want to, in support of what Councilor Nagel has just said, we have been at library board meetings, and one in particular, and if I don't know you that way, I've gotten to know you over the past few years, but I think that's the loudest I've heard you reply to anyone at a meeting. I mean, I have a pretty big mouth and I'm not afraid to use it, but we were both called out, our respective caucuses were called out. And we had to respond. And it was incorrect what the allegations were. And I have been party to that behavior in the past. So just in support of what you said, I am not going to engage in hearsay. I'm not going to engage in gossip. This is not a Facebook page, but I think we are all in agreement now that we move forward.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Draco?
So I'm just curious now, how we move forward. I would prefer somebody with HR or.
I'm prepared. I've done quite a bit of work on this and I've given a lot of thought. I've spoken with Mr. Brecker extensively. I'm not prepared to make a comment on it beyond that right now. I have a couple of other things. There's a outstanding FOIA request that could potentially shed light. There's a couple of interviews that a couple of rabbit holes I'd like to go down. I will be prepared to, to brief individual members of council, hopefully within the next.
But in terms of his behavior, I mean, advocating and condoning and carrying the message forward is what we find, there may or may not be a second person, I don't know, but what he did was not what a member of a board or anybody serving this town. So would somebody be able to help us craft either a resolution or a statement asking for him to either resign from positions or recommending to the board? Can we have that by the next meeting?
Yeah, I can draft something, and if it requires some coordination with Mr. Ritter, I can do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Maggie?
I would just move, we would move the rules or suspend the rules to do that quickly. And not have a 2-meeting process.
No problem for that, for sure. I would agree. Very good. Any other remarks from councilors? All right, seeing none. Informational items, we don't have anything here, but I did want to mention it's this weekend is the MPO Lavery Ride. I believe it's the last one, correct?
That's what it says.
Yeah, so that's so definitely go check it out. Leaving from Churchill Park.
When is the walk run?
I don't know when that is.
20.
1 second, I'm not sure.
And tomorrow morning is the 9.
Yeah, so tomorrow morning is the 9/11 memorial at Company One.
What time?
8:15?
Yeah, 8:15 at Company.
8:34, well, yeah.
And Run for Reagan's on the 22nd.
22nd is the run for Reagan. Okay, very good. All right, moving along, Councilor Page, would you please read the resolutions?
Resolved to,
It's executive session. Yeah.
okay, Mayor. Resolved that the Newington Town Council in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, section 1-206A hereby moves to go into executive session and invites the town council members, the mayor, town manager, and board of fire commissioners to discuss a personnel issue, fire department.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Page, seconded by Councilor Tiniakis. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 9-0. We are in executive session. Thanks everyone for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Break.
Yeah.
John has a screen.
We're on.
I'm back from executive session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Mankey, second by Counselor Floyd. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? We're adjourned 10:36 PM. Great night, everybody. Thank you.
All right.